Welcome to the Canva ad development tutorial. I'm Aiden with Ryan's Outdoor Media, and today we're going to be looking at how to develop Canva ads by using templates. Now in this video, we'll be establishing the groundwork for how to develop ads quickly, but also balance that efficiency with quality. Now at Ryan's Outdoor Media, we'll be making a very decent amount of graphics within about a period of a week's time. So making sure that we know how to make these quickly, but also balance the quality is very important. And in today's video, we'll be doing just that. Now, Canva provides us with a very large amount of helpful tools, and one of them particularly is the templates function, which allows us to essentially lay out the foundation of our ad without actually having to do any development. So for this video, I have created a video tutorial folder and we will be creating a design. So the screen might look a little bit different because I am already within a folder, but you can go ahead and create one yourself by using the large purple create button on the left-hand side of the screen if you are not within a folder already. So let's go ahead and get started by clicking the create design button. Now here we'll be brought to a variety of different formats according to what you're creating. So if you're creating a video, there's a video tab, a photo editor tab, a document tab, whiteboard tab, and everything that you could look at and need for developing different graphics according to what you want. Now for the purpose of this video and for the purpose of most of the ads that we're developing here, we are going to be using the social media tab, which is on the left here. Now the social media tab provides us with a bunch of different resolutions already customly made for a variety of different social media platforms. Now under the popular tab, we already have what we're looking for, but to explain, we have Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Now primarily our clients will be using either Facebook or Instagram, so we want to stick with those two, which are usually under the popular tab. For the purpose of this video and for the purpose of what our clients mostly use, I'll be using the Facebook post ad here. Now after clicking this immediately, we see we're already thrown into this sort of development area here. We have a blank template here, a blank canvas essentially, and we also have a bunch of different stuff on the left here. Now this design tab here is going to house our templates and our different styles. So that will be things like color palettes, combination palettes, different font sets, and what have you. Now we also have the elements tab, which contains either pre-loaded elements from Canva or different elements that you can generate. So things like rectangles, squares, or maybe lines or arrows or different shapes or whatnot. You can find pretty much anything within the Elements tab, so anything that you need for your ad will be right here. The text is pretty simple, and we'll get into the rest of it as we go along within the video. Now, as I was talking about earlier, we have one of the most important tabs here when it comes to development at Ryan's Outdoor Media, and that is the Templates tab. Now, the templates are essentially, as we can see, predefined structures of graphics that are very, very helpful and allow you to simply replace some of the information within the ads, move it around a little bit, and we have a developed ad that we can use for our clients. Now, Canva does allow you to use these for monetization if you have the premium, which we do, so do not worry about copywriting. But our clients do pay for their advertisements, so it is a sort of key that we are using their photos and not anybody else's photos. They pay for these advertisements. We want to make sure that we are advertising their company and not using photos off the internet. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'll be using one of our clients called Great North Safari. Now, they are big game hunting within Canada, so we will be using sort of a hunting or outdoors template. Now, here we have a search bar which essentially we can use to search up what we're looking for within our ad by using different keywords. So for this purpose, I'll do outdoors. Now we have a bunch of beautiful already pre-designed templates here that we can use in order to create these ads. For this tutorial, I think I will be just using this one. This looks pretty nice. It's pretty simple. It's not super complex, and we can replace the information and images here pretty quickly, which is very nice. So let's go ahead and start replacing things. Uh, we have Great North Safari, so I'm going to go ahead and replace that. We're going to shrink that down. Move it around a little bit. Let's make sure these line up. All right. And I will pull up their website here. So we have pretty much everything that we need. Most of our clients' websites have galleries, which essentially contain a variety of different images that the clients have taken themselves. Let's take a second to load here. Okay, I guess it's not going to load for me. All right, well, typically you'll be able to go onto these gallery pages and simply copy the images that were taken by our clients. And because it's a rule of thumb to stick to their images specifically, these galleries contain all of their images, as well as some of their Facebook pages and Instagram pages, or just social media pages in general. You can go to find different pictures or different pieces of media that you can use to put within their advertisements. Now, since that's not working, I'll simply be using our uploads here, and I will be grabbing just some media from their page here. If I can find it. It's a little bit unfortunate that it didn't want to load, but that is okay. I do have some of the images in here preloaded, so we will just be using those. We have two nice ones here, so let's just go ahead and drag these images onto the screen here. All right, there we go. So now that we got these on here, we can go ahead and start replacing some of the other stuff here. So let's take a look at some taglines. Let's go back to the website that hasn't loaded yet. And we have a lot of different information on these websites, which is super helpful. We can use that for developing these ads for different taglines, and you can also combine some of them to make it work if need be. So I'm going to be, let's see what we got here. So they are big game hunting. And let's make sure that we are typing in the correct information. So there's no harm in double checking to make sure that you are typing in the correct stuff. You want to make sure that there's no spelling mistakes before we send these over, and it's just not something we want to be displaying on our clients' websites. So just make sure that we are paying attention to that because it can cause a lot of issues if we are not. Let's go ahead and maybe let's change this color palette here. So go to the design tab and we can go to styles. Let's get rid of this. We have different color palettes here, which is nice. So we can go ahead and change these. It's a way that we can change it very quickly without essentially having to go into a lot of depth and replace everything. So if you're on a time crunch, it's very helpful to use these. I 100% would recommend using the color palettes because you can change the way that this looks, and you can see I'm just giving you a variety of different options as to what it could look like. Of course, we do want to be sticking with something that's simple and maybe not using things like cursive writing or cursive fonts. It's just not really easy to read. And it's not really something that we want. So we want something that's simple like this. I think this looks nice. I think maybe it's a little bit awry from a hunting. So maybe let's change it to a light gray there. I think that looks a lot better. Let's get rid of some of this impertinent information here. And instead, let's replace it with the URL of the website, which should always be on here. In this case, we're going to put it right there. Very nice. Okay. Now we have all our information on here. And just mess around with this a bit, make sure it looks nice and ready to go. Maybe let's change up that color a little bit. I think it might look a little better darker. Also, with these images here, we can see that we can add a little bit of pop by using borders. So we have borders right here, stroke style, stroke weight. Stick between 6 and 10. Anything over 10 is a little bit wacky looking, so don't use that. We'll do about a 9 for this video here, just to give kind of a standard size. And then let's change it to match the rest. Let's change those borders to white. We see that kind of gives our images a little bit of pop. It looks really nice. It works out great. Yeah, and I'm looking at this image here and I'm thinking that maybe we could make this a little bit more detailed. So one of the things that often helps with some of these images is by getting background images. So if we go ahead, I believe I have this in the uploads here. A lot of these images are not on here, which is unfortunate. But let me see if I can find. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to find anything. So let's just go ahead and, for the sake of this video, get an example image here, right? We can get a background going. This isn't a image of our client, but that is okay as long as you're, as long as it's not something super important to focus on. I would still recommend trying to find an image of theirs. But for the purpose of this tutorial and showing how to stylize backgrounds like this, I'm just going to use this image here. Now, what we get here is essentially this background is really high resolution. It's great quality. It's likely a 4K image. But the problem with that is that it kind of has a little bit of contrast to the text that we put on here. And it's kind of an eyesore to look at. One of the really nice features for backgrounds here, and what makes this look really nice, and what I often like to use when having text like this, is the autofocus feature. Now, by clicking on our background here, we get a bar that pops up on the top, and we will see this button here. Like I was speaking about earlier, the edit button. The edit button has a lot of nice stuff here with different filters, which look really nice depending on the image. So if you have darker grays like this, a cooler filter might look much better. It ultimately depends on what you want, but we can see that it makes it much easier to look at when we have cooler filters like that. But primarily what we're going to do here is get the auto focus feature, which is right here. Now, the auto focus feature is helpful for a magnitude of reasons. For one, it makes this image look so much better. We have a blurred backdrop. We want to be focusing on the text here. And what this does is essentially makes it so we're not looking in the background here. We don't want our customers to be looking around everything but the text. So it essentially kind of draws you into the center here and makes this kind of the focal point of the image. Now the focus position here essentially moves where it's being blurred. So if we want this front foreground here blurred, then we can go ahead and do that and focus on the background. We can blur the whole image or just start revealing some portions, just kind of like that. So I have a bit of the foreground revealed here and some of the background blurred out. So we can change the blur intensity, We can make it barely any, or we can make it more. I kind of like to do a little bit of a medium here. And we can go ahead and get rid of that. Now, another good thing you can do sometimes is maybe change depending on obviously how contrasted it is, you can change the color of the white here. Now, typically within advertisements, you don't use a pure white color like this, and you'll use more of a beige color, sort of similar to this. So depending on your background that you have, I would recommend not using a pure white because it is a little bit off-putting. But for this case, it should work out just fine. We can go back through the color palettes if we want and maybe look at a couple other combinations that we have here. Let's see, we can get a lot of good looking ones. I actually do kind of like that one. Let's see what else we have here. You can see how when you get into the final stages of development, this combination section is incredibly helpful for quickly stylizing and just seeing what different designs that you can get going here. I think I do like this one quite a bit actually. So let's go ahead and stick with that. Make this a bit lighter. Just kind of like that. And make this bold. Not a huge fan of that font, so we can change that. It is white in the foreground here, so maybe we can consider editing one more time and getting that autofocus off. So maybe we can blur out the foreground a little bit more, like that. You can see how that pops out just a bit. Right, and then we'll change this, maybe change that to the same color as the title. Now, I usually like to do the autofocus on these images too. I don't usually mess with it as much. I turn the blur intensity down to about a 30, but it does look nice to match these sometimes. Just so we're focusing on what we want to see, right? So it doesn't look as cluttered. So we can see in a very short amount of time, we made a pretty nice looking advertisement. There are definitely ways to improve, especially with more allocated time. But you shouldn't be spending too long on these. I would say probably about 15 minutes would be 15 to 20 minutes at the most per advertisement that you're creating. It's not really too difficult. Depending on the amount of time you allocate yourself, I think if you give yourself more time, it might be a little bit easier to do. But those are mainly some of the key features that you want to be looking at. I think they're very helpful and can really change the way that an advertisement looks. So yeah, after doing that, we can go ahead and go up to the share button in the top right here, and there is a download link. There are several different ways that you can do this. I would say you want to export it as a JPEG. These are not complex images or illustrations, and they are primarily going to be shared onto social media. And the best way, the best format for sharing is JPEG, so we want to make sure that we're using that. If you have animations within your advertisements, you would use the GIF, but typically we're not going to be using that since they're just going to be posted onto Facebook. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There are definitely a lot of other ways that you can edit these ads, and you can go into so much more detail if you think that's necessary. But for the purpose of this video, we're showing how to make just a quick ad in a very short amount of time that looks nice. It's very simple. So this is a very rudimentary example of what you'll be doing. But for the most part, we're going to be looking at these ads kind of just in a simple sense. We want them to be done quickly. We want to be able to do at least one in 15 to 20 minutes. So you should be able to get out at least 5 to 6 in a couple hours at the very minimum. So yeah, this was a Ryan's Outdoor Media tutorial video, and thank you for watching how to develop Canva ads with templates.